The emergency doctors could not save the millionaire's son, who fell ill at the restaurant. When the doctors revealed what really caused his collapse, everyone in the room fell in shock. Marcus Rothschild Jr. stabbed at his untouched salmon with a silver fork. The lunch crowd at Cirque buzzed around him, their chatter mixing with the clink of crystal glasses. His laptop screen showed the merger documents he'd been staring at for the past hour, numbers swimming before his eyes. "More water, Mr. Rothschild?" The waiter appeared at his elbow, crystal pitcher ready. "Yeah, thanks." Single quotes. Marcus rubbed his temple. The headache was back, worse than before. He checked his Patek Philippe watch. 1:15 p.m. 2 hours until the board meeting. His personal assistant, Sarah Chen, sat across from him, her own lunch growing cold as she took notes on her tablet. The projections for Q3 looked promising, but a sharp pain shot through Marcus's skull. He gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white against the crisp tablecloth. "Marcus?" Sarah lowered her tablet. "Are you okay?" "Fine." He forced a smile, but his hand trembled as he reached for the water glass. "Just another headache. That's the third one this week. Maybe you should see Dr. Peterson." "I don't have time for doctors." Marcus loosened his Armani tie. "Was it getting hot in here?" "The board meeting can wait if you're not feeling well." The memory hit him like a punch to the gut. His mother's funeral 5 years ago, standing beside the mahogany casket while his father stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. The doctors had said it was an aneurysm. Quick, unexpected. No warning signs except the headache she'd ignored. Marcus blinked hard, forcing the image away. His shirt collar felt tight. Sweat trickled down his spine despite the restaurant's perfect temperature control. "Mr. Rothschild?" A different voice now. The Mater D, hovering nearby with concern. "Sir, you look pale." I said I'm fine. Marcus tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. The room tilted sideways. "I just need some air." Sarah's tablet clattered to the table. "Marcus!" He saw her lunge forward, felt her hands trying to steady him. But his vision had already started to tunnel, black creeping in from the edges. The last thing he heard was the crash of his water glass hitting the floor. His mother's voice echoed in his head. "Sometimes, honey, money isn't enough." Then everything went dark. Gasps erupted around the restaurant. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. "Someone call 911. Now." Marcus lay slumped over the white tablecloth, his face gray, a thin line of saliva trailing from the corner of his mouth. The merger documents glowed forgotten on his laptop screen, numbers still scrolling past in an endless parade of wealth that couldn't help him now. A man pushed through the growing crowd. "I'm a doctor. Let me through." Sarah moved aside as the elderly man in a blue blazer knelt beside Marcus. He pressed 2 fingers to Marcus's neck, his expression grim. Pulses rapid and irregular. He looked up at Sarah. "How long has he been having symptoms?" "He's been getting headaches, but he wouldn't." She stopped, choking back tears. He wouldn't see anyone about them. The doctor's weathered hands moved efficiently, checking Marcus's pupils, his breathing. Has this happened before? No, but his mother, Sarah's voice cracked. She died from an aneurysm 5 years ago. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. The doctor kept his fingers on Marcus's pulse, counting under his breath. The other diners stood in a hushed circle, phones raised to capture the fall of a Rothschild. Marcus's eyelids fluttered. He mumbled something incoherent about the board meeting. "Stay with us, son," the doctor said firmly. "Help is coming." But Marcus was already slipping away again. His expensive suit crumpled. His carefully maintained image of invulnerability shattered on the floor along with the crystal water glass. The first paramedic pushed through the restaurant's revolving door at 1:23 p.m. By then, Marcus Rothschild Jr. had stopped responding completely. And somewhere in a downtown boardroom, his father's phone was about to ring. The paramedics burst through Cirque's entrance, their heavy boots squeaking against the polished floor. The first responder, a stocky woman with close-cropped gray hair, took command immediately. "Everyone back. Give us space." She knelt beside Marcus, replacing the retired doctor. "Sir, can you hear me?" Marcus's eyelids flickered, but didn't open. His chest rose and fell in shallow, irregular breaths, BEPs dropping. Her partner called out, wrapping the cuff around Marcus's arm. 140/90 and falling. Sarah clutched her phone, her other hand pressed against her mouth. "I have his father on the line. He's asking, tell him Mount Sinai." The paramedic cut in, sliding an oxygen mask over Marcus's face. "We're 5 minutes out." They're prepped and waiting. The retired doctor stood nearby, his blazer wrinkled. He was conscious briefly. Complained of severe head pain before losing consciousness again? Family history? The paramedic pulled out a penlight, checking Marcus's pupils. "Mother died of an aneurysm," Sarah supplied, her voice shaking. 5 years ago? Shit. The paramedic grabbed her radio. "Mount Sinai, this is bus 47. Update on incoming. 27-year-old male, possible cerebral event. Family history positive for aneurysm. Patient unconscious, BP falling. Pupils unequal and sluggish." Static crackled. "Copy that, bus 47. Neurosurgery standing by." They worked quickly, strapping Marcus to the gurney. His Armani suit was wrinkled, his crisp white shirt stained with sweat. A thin line of drool leaked from the corner of his mouth, smearing across the oxygen mask. "Sir?" The second paramedic touched Sarah's arm. "Are you riding with us?" Sarah nodded, still clutching her phone. Marcus's father's voice barked tinny commands through the speaker. "I'm 2 minutes from the restaurant." "Tell him to wait. No time, Amar. Rothschild." Sarah interrupted. "Meet us at Mount Sinai. They're taking him now." The gurney's wheels clattered across the restaurant floor. Other diners pressed against the walls, phones raised, capturing the moment a Rothschild's money couldn't save him. Blood pressure's still dropping. The first paramedic announced as they reached the ambulance. "Let's move." Sarah climbed in after them, her hand shaking so badly she almost dropped her phone. The doors slammed shut. Sirens screamed to life. Inside the ambulance, machines beeped urgently. The paramedics worked with practiced efficiency, starting in 4, attaching monitors, calling out numbers that meant nothing to Sarah, but seemed to worry them more with each passing second. Marcus's eyes snapped open. He grabbed at the oxygen mask. "Amar Rothschild, leave that on," the paramedic ordered, catching his hand. "You're in an ambulance. We're taking you to the hospital." The meeting, Marcus slurred. "Have to. Present. Forget the meeting." Sarah leaned forward. "Marcus, please. Your father's meeting us at the hospital." Marcus's eyes rolled back. The heart monitor's steady beep turned erratic. "He's crashing." The paramedic lunged for a syringe. "Mount Sinai, patient status deteriorating. Need immediate." The rest of her words faded into background noise as Sarah watched Marcus's face turn gray. His hand fell limp beside him, fingers curled like dead spiders against the white sheet. The ambulance screamed through Manhattan traffic, running reds, cutting corners. Inside, time stretched like cold taffy. Each second lasted an eternity as the paramedics fought to keep Marcus alive. Sarah couldn't stop staring at his shoes. Handmade Italian leather probably cost more than her monthly rent. Now scuffed and ordinary against the gurney's metal frame. "Almost there," the driver called back. 2 minutes out. Marcus's body jerked suddenly, back arching off the gurney. The monitor shrieked. No, the paramedic muttered, grabbing more equipment. "Stay with us, rich boy. Daddy's money's no good if you check out now." Sarah wanted to be offended at the comment, but she was too scared to care. She clutched her phone like a lifeline, watching the numbers tick past on the heart monitor. each beat a small victory in the race to the hospital. The ambulance swerved hard right. Through the windows, Sarah glimpsed Mount Sinai's emergency entrance looming ahead. They screeched to a stop. The doors burst open to reveal a waiting trauma team, their faces grim and focused. The gurney hit the ground with a metallic clang. 27-year-old male, probable cerebral event. The paramedic rattled off stats as they rushed through the emergency doors. Sarah ran alongside until a nurse stopped her with a firm hand. "Wait here. Someone will update you soon, but I need to wait here." The nurse's tone left no room for argument. The doors swung shut, leaving Sarah alone in the waiting room. She sank into a plastic chair, her legs finally giving out. Her phone buzzed. Marcus's father's name flashed on the screen. She took a deep breath and answered, knowing the next few minutes would be the hardest of her career. "Mr. Rothschild?" "Yes, we're at Mount Sinai." "No, I don't know anything yet." "They just took him in?" She closed her eyes, listening to the fury and fear in her boss's voice. "Yes, sir. I'll be waiting right here when you arrive." She hung up and stared at the emergency room doors, watching the seconds tick by on the wall clock above them. Each minute stretched into forever as she waited for news, any news, about the man who was supposed to be untouchable, but money couldn't buy time. And right now, time was the only thing that mattered. Marcus Rothschild's heir burst through the emergency room doors like a storm front. His cashmere coat flared behind him, security teams struggling to keep pace. "Where's my son?" His voice boomed across the waiting room. Several heads turned. Sarah jumped to her feet. They took him straight to trauma. "Mar Rothschild. No updates yet. Find someone who knows something. Now." He jabbed a finger at one of his security guards. "Clear this floor. I want privacy." "Sir, this is a public hospital," the guard started. "Then buy the damn floor." A doctor emerged through the swinging doors, still pulling off bloody gloves. "Mr. Rothschild?" "I'm Dr. Patel, head of neurosurgery. How's my son?" "Critical but stable for now. We need to operate immediately, doctor." Patel's dark eyes were sharp, assessing. "But first, I need to know, has Marcus complained of any symptoms? Headaches, numbness, vision problems?" Rothschild Sr. turned to Sarah. She swallowed hard. "He's been having headaches for weeks, maybe months. He wouldn't see anyone about them." And she hesitated. "Last week, I saw him rubbing his left arm, like it was numb." Jesus Christ. Rothschild Sr.'s face reddened. "Why didn't you tell me?" "He made me promise not to." "Said he couldn't show any weakness before the board meeting?" "The board meeting?" "Doctor," Patel cut in, "your son has been walking around with a time bomb in his brain, and he was worried about a meeting?" The monitors behind the emergency room doors suddenly erupted in chaos. A nurse burst out. "Doctor, Patel, he's seizing." The doctor spun and ran, shouting orders. Rothschild Sr. tried to follow, but two nurses blocked his path. "Sir, you need to stay here." "Like hell I will. That's my son, and right now, your son needs you to let us do our jobs." Through the door's windows, they could see the medical team swarming around Marcus's bed. His body convulsed, machines screaming warnings. "Get me an OR now." "Doctor." Patel's voice carried through the doors. "We're losing our window." Rothschild Sr. sagged against the wall. For the first time in Sarah's 5 years working for the family, she saw fear crack through his imperial facade. "His mother," he whispered. It was just like this. A young resident rushed out, phone pressed to his ear. "OR3 is prepped." "They're waiting." Marcus's heart monitor flatlined. The sound cut through the emergency room like a knife. Sarah watched through the window as Dr. Patel grabbed the defibrillator paddles. "Clear." Marcus's body arched off the bed. Nothing. Again. "Clear." Still nothing. Doctor. Patel started chest compressions. Come on, kid. Don't do this. Rothschild Sr. pressed his forehead against the window. His breath fogged the glass. Please, he whispered. Not like her. Please. On the third try, the monitor caught a rhythm. Weak, but there. Move, now. Doctor, Patel shouted. The team rushed Marcus's gurney toward the elevator. Doctor, still straddling him, continuing compressions. As they passed, Sarah caught a glimpse of Marcus's face. His skin was gray-blue, lips tinged purple under the oxygen mask. Nothing like the commanding young executive who'd been reviewing merger documents just hours ago. The elevator doors closed. Silence fell. A nurse approached Rothschild Sr. with a clipboard. Sir, we need you to sign some forms. The procedure, doctor. Patel wants to try. It's experimental. High risk, but given the circumstances, how much? He interrupted. Sir, how much does it cost? Whatever it is, double it. Triple it. Just save my son. The nurse's face softened. Rothschild. Money isn't the issue here. The procedure itself. There's no guarantee it will work. And the risks? What risks? Even if he survives, there could be permanent damage. Paralysis, cognitive impairment, personality changes. But he'll be alive? The nurse hesitated. We hope so. Rothschild Sr. grabbed the clipboard and signed without reading. His hand shook, marring his usually perfect signature. There's a private waiting room upstairs, the nurse said gently. I'll have someone show you. I want updates every 15 minutes. His voice cracked. Every 5 minutes. I want to know everything. Of course, sir. Sarah watched him follow the nurse, his shoulders bent under the weight of helplessness. His security team trailed behind, useless against this invisible enemy. She sank into a chair, her own adrenaline finally crashing. Her phone buzzed, the board members wondering where Marcus was, the merger partners getting impatient. She turned off the phone. In the distance, a PIA system crackled. Code blue, OR3. Code blue, OR3. Sarah closed her eyes and did something she hadn't done since Catholic school. She prayed. Above her, the clock ticked forward, marking time in heartbeats. Each second carried Marcus further from the certainty of board meetings and merger documents, deeper into the unknown territory where his father's billions meant nothing. Somewhere in OR3, doctors fought to repair what money couldn't fix. And all anyone could do was wait. Time of arrest, 3:42 p.m. Doctor. Patel's voice cut through the tense atmosphere of OR3, beginning comprehensive resuscitation protocol. Marcus lay motionless on the operating table, his skull partially opened, surgical instruments gleaming under harsh lights. The heart monitor's steady tone bore witness to the absence of life. Push 1 milligram epinephrine, doctor. Patel ordered. Begin compressions. A nurse counted out loud as another doctor pressed rhythmically on Marcus's chest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up in the observation room, Rothschild Sr. pressed his hands against the glass. Security guards flanked him, helpless to protect their employer from this moment. Starting internal cardiac massage, doctor, Patel announced. Her gloved hands moved with practiced precision inside Marcus's chest cavity. Where's that epi? Pushed. No response. Again. Push another. The seconds ticked by. No change. 2 minutes down. Someone called out. Doctor. Patel's face glistened with sweat under her surgical mask. Come on, kid. Your old man's watching. Show him what Rothschilds are made of. In the observation room, Rothschild Sr.'s phone rang. He ignored it. Another board member, probably. Another merger partner. Another person who thought money could solve everything. 3 minutes, the timekeeper announced. The room fell into a rhythm. Compressions, medications, defibrillation. nothing worked. Starting to look at brain damage territory, an anesthesiologist murmured, "Not yet, doctor." Patel's voice was steel. "This kid's too stubborn to go out like this." Single quotes. Meanwhile, in the darkness where Marcus floated, something strange was happening. He saw his mother, not as she'd been at the end, but as she was in his earliest memories, laughing, vibrant, alive. "Mom?" His voice echoed in the void. She smiled but didn't speak. Instead, she pointed to something behind him. He turned. Images flashed by. His father, alone in his study, staring at a photo of Marcus's mother. Sarah, crying in the bathroom between meetings, worried about him. The retired doctor who tried to help him at Cirque, shaking his head at another rich man who thought he was immortal. 3 minutes, 45 seconds. The darkness rippled. His mother's image began to fade. "Wait," Marcus tried to reach for her. "Don't go," her voice so clear. "It's not time yet, honey. You have work to do." 4 minutes, the timekeeper called. "Doctor." Patel slammed her fist on the table. "One more round, maximum dose. Now." The nurse pushed the medication. Nothing. Ben, a blip. Another. "We've got rhythm." The anesthesiologist leaned forward. "Weak, but it's there. BP's coming up." Another nurse called out. 60 over 40. 70 over 50. Marcus's body jerked on the table. His eyes flew open, unseeing. "There you are, doctor." Patel's eyes crinkled above her mask. "Welcome back, Mr. Rothschild." In the observation room, Rothschild Sr. sagged against the glass. One of his security guards caught his arm. "Sir, do you need to sit down?" "No." He straightened his tie, muscle memory taking over. "No, I'm fine." But his hand shook as he watched Dr. Patel return to the delicate work of saving his son's brain. "Aneurysms larger than the scans showed," she muttered. "Been growing for months, probably. Damn fool kid, ignoring the signs." Her instruments moved with microscopic precision, repairing damage that all the money in the world couldn't have prevented. Hours passed. Surgical teams rotated. Only Dr. Patel remained constant, her focus absolute as she worked to give Marcus a second chance. Finally, at 9:17 p.m., she stepped back from the table. "Close him up," she ordered. "I'll talk to the father." She found Rothschild Sr. still in the observation room, his cashmere coat wrinkled, his face aged 10 years. "He's alive," she said without preamble. "The next 24 hours are critical. But he's alive, and his brain? We won't know the full extent until he wakes up. He was down for 4 minutes. That's a long time without oxygen, but you saved him, Doctor." Patel pulled off her surgical cap, revealing gray streaks in her dark hair. "Your son saved himself, Mr. Rothschild. Something brought him back at that 4-minute mark. Wasn't anything we did. How much do I owe you?" She looked at him for a long moment. "You know what would really repay me? Get your son to understand that he's not invincible. All the money in the world won't help if he doesn't take care of himself." Rothschild Sr. nodded slowly. "When can I see him?" "They're moving him to ICU now. 1 visitor at a time, 5 minutes each hour." She held up a hand to stop his protest. "Those rules apply to everyone, Mr. Rothschild. Even you." She turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. When he wakes up, if he remembers anything from those 4 minutes, listen to him. Sometimes people come back different. Better if they're smart enough to learn from it." She walked away, leaving Rothschild Sr. to stare through the now empty operating room windows, remembering another hospital, another night, another chance he hadn't gotten with his wife. But this time was different. This time, his son had come back. The ICU monitor beeped steadily, marking each beat of Marcus's heart. His head was wrapped in white bandages, face pale against the sterile sheets. Tubes and wires turned him into something mechanical, something un-Rothschild-like. Sarah sat in the visitor's chair, watching the minutes tick by on her 5-minute allocation. She'd had to fight for even this. The nurses didn't consider an assistant family. "Your 5 minutes are up," a nurse said from the doorway. He moved his hand. Sarah protested. Just now, the nurse, her badge read Monica, stepped closer to check the monitors. "That's normal. Random nerve responses." Doesn't mean. Marcus's eyes fluttered open. "Doctor, Patel." Monica hit the call button. "He's waking up." Sarah leaned forward. "Marcus, can you hear me?" His lips moved behind the oxygen mask. Monica pushed Sarah aside, checking pupils, blood pressure, orientation. "Mr. Rothschild? If you can understand me, squeeze my hand." A weak pressure. Then stronger. "Good. Do you know where you are?" Marcus's voice was a rasp. "Hospital. Do you know what happened?" His eyes closed. "Restaurant? Head hurt." "Doctor." Patel burst in, still wearing surgical scrubs from another operation. She flashed her penlight in Marcus's eyes, checked his responses. "Welcome back, Mr. Rothschild. You gave us quite a scare." "How long?" 2 days. "Doctor." Patel's voice turned stern. "Now, we need to talk about why you're here. Those headaches you've been ignoring? The numbness in your arm? That was your body screaming for help." Marcus tried to turn away. "Doctor." Patel caught his chin. "No, you don't get to hide anymore. You had an aneurysm, exactly like your mother. You're alive because a retired doctor happened to be having lunch at Le Cirque. 3 minutes later, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Tears leaked from the corners of Marcus's eyes. "I know you're scared, Doctor," Patel continued. "But lying to your doctors, ignoring symptoms, that's not strength. That's suicide." Monica appeared with a tablet. "His latest scans, Doctor." "Doctor." Patel studied them, frowning. "The surgical site looks good, but..." She turned the tablet so Marcus could see. "These other areas concern me. You've been pushing yourself too hard for too long. Your brain's showing the stress." "The board meeting," Marcus started. "Forget the damn board." Everyone turned. Rothschild Sr. stood in the doorway, his usual commanding presence diminished by 2 days of hospital chair sleep. "You think I care about some meeting? I almost lost you." He pushed past Dr. Patel to grab his son's hand. "Why didn't you tell me about the headaches?" "Didn't want to worry you." "Worry me? Your mother said the same thing." Right up until his voice broke. "I can't do this again. I can't lose you too, Doctor." Patel cleared her throat. "And our Rothschild, both of you, we need to discuss recovery. This isn't going to be quick or easy. Whatever he needs." Rothschild Sr. said, "Best therapists, private nurses. What he needs is rest. Real rest. No work, no stress, no phones." She fixed Marcus with a stern look. "Your brain needs time to heal. Push too hard, too fast, and you could trigger another event. And next time, you might not be so lucky." Marcus's heart monitor sped up. "How long?" "Minimum 6 months." "No negotiation." "6 months?" Rothschild Sr. exploded. "The company will survive, Doctor. Cut in. Or would you prefer to write your son's obituary instead of a temp CEO announcement?" Harsh silence fell. The heart monitor's beeps echoed off sterile walls. Finally, Marcus whispered, "I saw Mom." Everyone stared at him. During surgery, those 4 minutes, she was there. His voice strengthened. "She told me I had work to do. Not company work. Something else." "Doctor." Patel nodded slowly. "Near-death experiences often provide clarity. I suggest you listen to what your mother told you." But the merger, Rothschild Sr. started. "Dad, Marcus squeezed his father's hand. "I don't want to die like Mom." Something crumpled in the older man's face. He sank into the visitor's chair, suddenly looking every one of his 68 years. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay, we'll figure it out, Doctor." Patel typed notes into her tablet. "First step, full neurological workup. We need to assess any damage from the oxygen deprivation. Then we'll design a rehabilitation program. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, cognitive exercises. Will he," Sarah spoke for the first time, "will he be the same?" "That's not the right question, Doctor." Patel's dark eyes were kind. "The right question is, who does he want to be now that he's been given a second chance?" Marcus stared at the ceiling, tears rolling silently down his face. The monitors beeped steadily, marking each precious second of his borrowed time. In the hallway, someone dropped a tray. The crash made everyone jump, everyone except Marcus, who didn't seem to hear it. Dr. Patel frowned, making another note. "We'll start hearing tests tomorrow. There may be some temporary deficits," but Marcus wasn't listening. He was looking at his father, really looking, maybe for the first time in years, at the gray hair that hadn't been there 6 months ago, at the lines worry had carved around his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Rothschild's R gripped his hand tighter. "Just get better. Everything else can wait." Outside the IQ windows, Manhattan glittered with its usual indifference. Somewhere in the Rothschild building, the board was probably meeting, making contingency plans, protecting the empire. But in this room, monitors marking time and heartbeats, none of that mattered. Money couldn't buy back the 4 minutes Marcus had lost. It couldn't erase the fear in his father's eyes. All it could do now was wait, along with everyone else, to see who Marcus would become in this unexpected second act of his life. Marcus stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, not recognizing the man who stared back. 3 days of hospital stay had left him gaunt, his designer stubble grown into an unkempt beard. The bandages around his head made him look like a war casualty. "Need help?" Monica stood in the doorway, ready to assist. "I can brush my own teeth." The words came out slurred, his tongue still clumsy from medications. "Of course you can." She didn't move. His hand shook as he reached for the toothbrush. It clattered into the sink. "Damn it, let me know." He gripped the sink edge. "Just give me a minute." His phone buzzed on the counter. Another board member's message. He had 67 unread emails, 42 voicemails, and a dozen missed video calls. The merger partners were getting nervous. Monica picked up the phone and turned it off. "Doctor's orders. No work. I need to at least tell them. Your father handled it. Full medical leave, effective immediately." She retrieved the toothbrush. "Now, are you going to let me help? Or do you want to stay here all day?" Pride warred with exhaustion. Exhaustion won. Fine. She helped him through the morning routine. Teeth, face, careful cleaning around the bandages. Each small task felt like running a marathon. "The physical therapist is coming at 10, she said, helping him back to bed. "Doctor, Patel wants to test your coordination." Marcus's hand trembled as he reached for the water glass. "What's wrong with my hands?" "Temporary nerve response issues. Common after brain surgery." She adjusted his pillows. "The tremors should improve with time and therapy." "Should?" Before she could answer, Sarah appeared in the doorway, tablet in hand. "Hey, boss." She tried to smile. "Feeling better?" "If one more person asks me that, board meeting updates." She interrupted, used to his moods. "Your father's handling the transition, but Hamilton Partners is threatening to pull out of the merger. They want to hear from you directly." Marcus started to sit up. Monica pushed him back. "No work means no work," she said firmly. "Doctor's orders. It's just a video call? What part of no is unclear?" "Doctor." Patel strode in, bringing her usual air of authority. Your brain is healing from major trauma. Every bit of stress, every spike in blood pressure, risks triggering another event. The company will survive without you. She checked his pupils. You, on the other hand, might not survive the company. Not if you keep putting profit over health. His phone buzzed again. Sarah grabbed it before Monica could. "It's your father," she said. "Video call, Dr. Patel side. 2 minutes. No business talk." The screen lit up with Rothschild Jr.'s face. He looked tired, his usual perfect appearance slightly rumpled. "Marcus, how are you feeling?" "Like hell." Marcus tried to steady his shaking hand. "Dad, about Hamilton Partners." "No." His father's voice was firm. "That's not why I called." The physical therapist sent over equipment recommendations for the penthouse. "I'm having everything installed today. I don't need—" "Yes, you do." Rothschild Jr. leaned closer to the camera. "Son, listen to me. The company will be there when you're better. Right now, your only job is to heal." Marcus's vision blurred with sudden tears. "I'm sorry. I'm letting everyone down. The only one you let down was yourself." His father's voice softened. "And me, by not telling me how bad things were, just like your mother." Silence fell. In it, machines beeped, marking precious heartbeats. "Time's up, Doctor," Patel announced. "Mr. Rothschild, your son has therapy now." "Dad, wait." Marcus reached for the phone, but his trembling hand knocked it off the bed instead. It clattered to the floor, screen cracking. The sound triggered something. Suddenly, he was back at the Cirque, hearing his water glass shatter, feeling the world tilt. "Blood pressure spiking," Monica called out. 160/95. "Doctor." Patel moved fast, injecting something into his fore. "Breathe, Marcus. You're safe. You're here." The room spun. He could hear his mother's voice. "You have work to do. No more phones, Doctor," Patel said firmly as the medication took effect. "No more work. No more pushing yourself to the edge." Marcus slumped back against the pillows, exhausted just from sitting up. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. "When," he had to swallow before continuing, "when will I be normal again?" "Doctor." Patel's face softened. "That's not how this works. You don't go back to normal. You build a new normal, one that doesn't include ignoring your body's warnings." The physical therapist arrived, wheeling in equipment. Marcus stared at the walker, the rubber balls for grip strength, the basic tools that would now define his days. "Ready to get started?" the therapist asked cheerfully. No, he wanted to scream. No, he wasn't ready for any of this. He wanted his old life back. More meetings and merger documents and the illusion of invincibility that money had bought him. But money couldn't steady his hands. It couldn't clear the fog in his brain or stop the tremors that ran through his body. It couldn't erase the 4 minutes he'd spent with his mother in that dark place between life and death. "Okay," he whispered. "I'm ready." The therapist began setting up equipment. Monica adjusted his bed. Sarah slipped out quietly, taking the broken phone with her. Through the window, Marcus could see Manhattan's skyline, his family's empire of glass and steel. Somewhere up there, his father was running the company, covering for his absence, protecting everything they'd built. But down here, in this sterile room with its beeping monitors and medical equipment, none of that mattered. Down here, he was just a man learning to brush his teeth again, to hold a cup without spilling, to accept help instead of commanding it. The therapist held out a rubber ball. "Let's start with something simple." Marcus stared at it. This small, ordinary thing that now seemed like the biggest challenge of his life. His hand shook as he reached for it. The work of becoming someone new had begun. Again, Jake, the physical therapist, held the rubber ball just out of reach. 5 more times. Marcus's arm trembled with exhaustion. 1 week into rehabilitation, and the simplest tasks still felt like climbing Everest. Can't, he gasped. Can't isn't a word we use here. Jake didn't lower the ball. 5 more. Then we're done. Sweat dripped down Marcus's face. His surgical incision itched under fresh bandages. Every muscle screamed for rest. He reached up, touched the ball. Once. Good. 4 more. His mother's voice echoed in his head. You have work to do. Twice. The heart monitor beeped faster. 3 times. Blood pressure, Monica warned from her station. He's okay, Jake said. 2 more, Marcus. Show me what Rothschilds are made of. 4 times. His vision blurred. The room tilted. 5. Done. Jake caught him as he slumped forward. Easy now. Deep breaths. Marcus's hands spasmed, fingers curling like dead leaves. Monica rushed forward with an ice pack. I used to sign $1 million contracts, Marcus whispered. Now I can barely touch a rubber ball. And tomorrow you'll touch it 6 times. Jake started putting away equipment. Progress isn't always measured in dollars. The door opened. Rothschild Sr. stepped in, immaculate in a fresh suit. How's he doing? Making progress, Jake said before Marcus could speak. His right side coordination is improving. Left side still needs work. Marcus looked away, ashamed for his father to see him like this, sweating, trembling, dressed in hospital-issued clothes instead of Armani. The board sends their best, his father said awkwardly. Hamilton Partners signed with Turner Group this morning. The merger, gone. Months of work, evaporated because he couldn't hold a pen steady enough to sign papers. I'm sorry, Marcus whispered. Don't be. His father pulled up a chair. Turner Group's over-leveraged. The deal would have been trouble in 6 months. You're just saying that. No, I'm not. Rothschild Jr. leaned forward. Son, watching you on that operating table, it changed things. Made me see what your mother tried to tell me years ago. What's that? That I've been chasing the wrong kind of legacy. Before Marcus could respond, Dr. Patel arrived for afternoon rounds. She checked his surgical site, his reflexes, his cognitive responses. The tremors are improving, she noted. How's the speech? Still. Slow. Marcus hated how his words slurred when he was tired. Hard to find right words. Normal with this type of trauma. Your brain is rewiring itself. She made notes on her tablet. Any more headaches? Small ones. He had a bad one last night, Monica corrected. Didn't want me to log it? Marcus glared at her. Doctor. Patel sighed. This isn't the time for pride, Mr. Rothschild. Every symptom matters. Every setback needs to be monitored. When can I go home? The question burst out before he could stop it. When you can walk to the bathroom without help. When your blood pressure stays stable. When you stop hiding symptoms. She fixed him with a stern look. And when I believe you'll actually rest instead of sneaking work calls. His father shifted uncomfortably. The penthouse is ready. Private nurses hired. Everything you specified. That's good, Doctor. Patel checked Marcus's pupils. But hardware isn't the issue. The question is he ready to do the hard work of healing? I am, Marcus insisted. Really? Because Monica tells me you tried to take a video call from the board yesterday. They needed no, Doctor. Patel's voice cracked like a whip. They don't need anything from you right now. You need to understand something, Mr. Rothschild. Your brain is healing from massive trauma. Every time you push too hard, every time you try to be the man you were before, you risk undoing all our work. Silence fell. Monitors beeped. Outside, the city roared on without him. I don't know how to be anyone else, Marcus finally whispered. That's exactly what you need to learn, Doctor. Patel's face softened. The man you were before? He nearly died. Maybe it's time to find out who you are without the corner office and the merger deals. The company will survive, his father interrupted. I've been thinking, maybe it's time for changes, not just temporary ones. Marcus stared at him. What do you mean? Turner Group wasn't the only offer for that merger, but they were the biggest, the most prestigious. Just like you taking over as CEO would be the expected move, the prestigious move. Rothschild Jr. ran a hand through his gray hair. Maybe it's time to stop chasing prestige. Dad, your mother used to say we were building an empire on quicksand, that we'd forgotten what matters. He grabbed Marcus's trembling hand. I won't watch you die like she did. Not for some merger, some title, some arbitrary milestone. Tears spilled down Marcus's cheeks. He tried to wipe them away, but his coordination failed. Monica stepped forward with a tissue. Tomorrow we try standing, Jake said quietly. Small steps. One at a time, Marcus nodded, too exhausted to speak. His father stood, straightening his suit. I'll come back tonight. We can talk about what you want. Not what the board wants or what I want. What you want. After everyone left, Marcus lay in the dim room, listening to his monitors. His hands still trembled. His head still ached. But something else had changed, something deeper than physical therapy could reach. For the first time since the restaurant, since those 4 minutes with his mother, he felt like he could breathe. Small steps, Jake had said, one at a time. The penthouse elevator opened silently. Marcus gripped his walker, Monica hovering at his elbow. Ready? She asked. No. He wasn't ready to see his life reduced to handrails and rubber mats, to medical equipment tucked into corners where art had once stood. But he stepped forward anyway. Home sweet home, his father said too cheerfully, carrying Marcus's hospital bag. Everything's set up just like Dr. Patel specified. Marcus shuffled forward. 2 weeks in the hospital had left him weak, unsteady. Each step required concentration. The penthouse had changed. His modernist furniture was gone, replaced by ergonomic chairs with high backs and firm support. Handrails lined the walls. The Italian marble floors were covered with non-slip mats. Your room's all set, Monica said, steering him down the hall. Hospital bed, monitoring equipment. No, Marcus stopped. My own bed. Marcus, his father started. Please, his voice cracked. I need something normal. Monica and his father exchanged looks. We'll try it, Monica conceded. But if your blood pressure spikes, or if you can't get up safely, I know. Marcus gripped the walker tighter. Hospital bed. They helped him to his bedroom. At least here, things looked mostly the same. His king-sized bed, his view of Central Park, his closet full of suits he couldn't wear yet. Do you want to rest? Monica asked. Jake's coming at 2 for therapy. Marcus sank onto the bed edge, already exhausted. Just need a minute. His father lingered awkwardly. The board sent flowers. They're in the kitchen. Dad, I know, no work talk. He straightened his tie. I should get to the office. Conference call with London at noon. Go. Marcus attempted a smile. I'm fine. After his father left, Monica helped him change into pajamas. Silk ones, because some habits died hard. His hands shook too much for buttons. Your schedule for today, she said, settling him against the pillows. Meds at noon. Physical therapy at 2. Speech therapy via video call at 4. Dr. Patel checks in at 6. Marcus stared out the window. From up here, the city looked unchanged. But everything else had shifted, realigned around his new limitations. What's wrong with my hands? The question emerged suddenly, something he'd been afraid to ask in the hospital. Monica sat in the bedside chair. The aneurysm affected the motor control center of your brain. The tremors might improve with therapy, or they might not. No, her honesty was gentle but firm. They might not. His eyes burned. I can't even hold a pen. There's voice recognition software, dictation apps. It's not the same. No, she agreed. It's not. But it's what we have to work with. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. She'd been managing correspondence, fielding calls from concerned board members and business partners. Hamilton Partners sent over a gift basket. The message read, "Should I have it sent up?" Marcus tried to type a response. His fingers refused to cooperate. Monica took the phone. "What do you want me to tell her?" "Donate it," he whispered. "To the hospital." She typed a response, then set the phone aside. "You should rest before therapy. Jake's going to work you hard today." Marcus closed his eyes. Exhaustion pulled at him, but sleep remained elusive. Every time he dozed off, he saw the restaurant, felt the world tilting. "Monica, why did you become a nurse?" She was quiet for a moment. "My brother had a stroke at 25. Everyone said he'd never walk again, never live independently. But one nurse believed differently. She pushed him, encouraged him, showed him how to build a new life instead of mourning the old one." "Did he walk again?" "He ran a marathon last year." She stood, adjusting his pillows. "The body can heal, Marcus. But you have to give it time, and you have to be willing to change. Change." The word echoed in his mind as he drifted off. Jake arrived precisely at 2, wheeling in his cart of torture devices. Therapy balls, resistance bands, balance boards. "Good news," he announced. "Doctor, Patel approved pool therapy. We start next week." Marcus eyed the equipment. "Bad news?" "Today we're working on fine motor skills." Jake sat up at the bedside table, writing exercises. Marcus's hands trembled at the mere thought. "I can't isn't the word we use." Jake held out a thick-gripped pen. "We're not aiming for calligraphy. Just your name." The pen felt alien in Marcus's shaking grip. He positioned it over the paper, trying to remember how this used to be effortless. The first attempt was a scrawl, barely legible. "Good," Jake said. Again. By the 5th try, Marcus's hand cramped. Sweat beaded on his forehead. "Take a break." Jake checked his blood pressure. "You're doing better than you think. Doesn't feel like it. Recovery isn't linear. Some days you'll move forward. Some days you'll slide back." Jake smiled. "But you're already stronger than when we started." The afternoon crawled by. Speech therapy, exercises to strengthen his tongue, to find words that still sometimes slipped away. Video check-in with Dr. Patel, who seemed pleased with his progress. "Blood pressure's stabilizing," she noted. "How's the new environment?" "Different. Different can be good." She peered through the screen. "Any headaches? Dizziness?" "Small ones." Monica cleared her throat. "Two bad ones," Marcus corrected. "Yesterday and this morning." Honesty. "I like it, Doctor." Patel made notes. "We'll adjust your medication. Keep logging everything. Single quotes." After she signed off, Marcus's father arrived with dinner, soup, soft foods, things Marcus could manage without embarrassing himself. "The London call went well," his father said, settling into a chair. "And Paris is interested in—" He caught himself. "Sorry, no work talk." "It's okay." Marcus managed a spoonful of soup without spilling. "I want to know." "No, you need to focus on recovery." His father watched him eat. "I've been thinking about what happens after." "After?" "When you're stronger." "About the company, the succession plan." Marcus's hand shook. Soup splashed onto the tray. "Sorry, I'll clean." His father reached for a napkin. "I can do it." Marcus gripped a napkin with trembling fingers. "I'm not completely helpless." Silence fell. Outside, the sun set over Central Park, painting the sky in colors no corner office could match. "I never wanted this for you," his father finally said. "The pressure, the expectations, your mother was right. We built something that consumed us." Marcus dabbed at the spilled soup. "What choice did we have?" "There are always choices." His father's voice was soft. I just didn't see them until I watched you flatline on that operating table." The napkin slipped from Marcus's fingers. Monica appeared silently, cleaning up, adjusting his tray. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe it's time for the Rothschild empire to mean something different." His father reached for Marcus's trembling hand. "Something that doesn't require sacrificing our children on the altar of success." Through the window, Manhattan's lights began to twinkle. The city that never slept, never stopped, never showed weakness. But in this room, with his shaking hands and his changed world, Marcus was learning that weakness might not be the enemy after all. It might be the way forward. 1 month after leaving the hospital, Marcus Rothschild Jr. walked into his father's office without a walker. His steps were slow, deliberate, but they were his own. Sarah jumped up from her desk. "Marcus, we weren't expecting surprise visit." His speech was clearer now, though still careful. "Dad around?" "Board meeting. He'll be done in 10. She studied him. "You look good." He did, in a different way. The designer suits were gone, replaced by comfortable clothes that accommodated his therapy sessions. His usual clean-shaven look had given way to a neatly trimmed beard that hid how thin his face had become. But his eyes were clear, present in a way they hadn't been before. "Want to wait in his office?" Marcus nodded. The walk from the elevator had tired him more than he wanted to admit. His father's office was unchanged. The same view, the same power desk, the same weight of expectations in the air. But Marcus felt like a visitor now, observing it all from the outside. He sank into one of the guest chairs, hands trembling slightly from exertion. A stack of merger documents sat on the desk, Turner Group's logo visible on top. "They came back," his father's voice said from the doorway. "Better terms this time." Marcus turned. Rothschild Sr. stood there, looking simultaneously relieved and worried to see his son. "Does your nurse know you're here?" "Monica dropped me off." Marcus managed to smile. "Don't worry, I'm not breaking jail." His father crossed to the desk but didn't sit. "How you feeling?" "Better." Marcus held up his hands. The tremors were visible but controlled. "Jake says I'm ahead of schedule." "That's good." Awkward silence fell. "The board's been asking about you. That's why I came." Marcus took a deep breath. "I need to tell you something. If this is about the CEO position, we can wait. Give you time to recover fully. I don't want it." The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. "What?" "I don't want to be CEO." Marcus's voice strengthened. "Not now. Maybe not ever." His father sank into his chair. "Is this because of the tremors? Because we can work around?" "No." Marcus leaned forward. "This isn't about what I can't do. It's about what I want to do." Through the window, a helicopter descended toward the helipad where Marcus used to land for morning meetings. The city hummed with its usual energy, but it didn't call to him the same way anymore. During those 4 minutes, he said quietly, "When I was with Mom, she told me I had work to do. I thought she meant this." He gestured at the office. "But she didn't." "What did she mean?" "The foundation." "Her foundation?" Marcus's hand shook, but his voice was steady. "The one that funds neurological research, that helps families who can't afford care. It's been running on autopilot since she died. I want to change that." His father stared at the merger documents, then back at his son. "You want to run a charity instead of a Fortune 500 company?" "I want to make a difference that doesn't require killing myself to prove something." Marcus met his father's gaze. "Mom tried to tell us about balance, about what matters. We didn't listen. I almost died not listening. The board won't understand." "No." Marcus smiled slightly. "But for the first time in my life, I don't care what they think." Silence stretched between them, filled with years of expectations and the weight of legacy. Finally, his father said, "Tell me more about your plans for the foundation." "Really?" "Really." Rothschilds pushed aside the merger documents. "Your mother would be proud, you know? She always said you had her heart. Marcus's vision blurred. I miss her. Me too. His father's voice roughened. Every day, the intercom buzzed. Sarah's voice. Mr. Rothschild? Turner Group is holding on line 1. Father and son looked at each other. Tell them I'll call back, Rothschild Jr. said. I'm in a meeting with someone more important. He turned off the intercom and faced his son. Now, about the foundation. What do you need? Office space, for starters. Something accessible. Marcus gestured at himself. I'm not the only one who needs accommodations. Take the whole 10th floor. It's been empty since the restructuring. Dad, I don't need. Let me do this. His father leaned forward. Let me help you build something your mother would be proud of. Marcus's hands trembled as he reached for a tissue. Damn medications. Make me emotional. Pretty sure that's not the medications. Son. They both laughed, the sound breaking years of tension. The door opened. Monica stood there, arms crossed. Time for therapy. 5 more minutes? Marcus asked. No negotiations, but she smiled. Jake's waiting. Marcus stood carefully. His father rushed to help, but he waved him off. I can do it. Dinner tonight? His father asked. We can talk more about the foundation, as long as Monica approves the restaurant. No Le Cirque, she said firmly. No, Marcus agreed. Never again. He walked out slowly, each step measured but sure. His father watched until the elevator doors closed. Then Rothschild Sr. picked up his phone and dialed. Sarah, call Turner Group back. Tell them, he smiled. Tell them the Rothschilds are making some changes. In the elevator, Marcus leaned against the wall, tired but content. His hand shook as he checked his phone. One message from Dr. Patel. Blood pressure numbers looking good. Keep it up. He thought of his mother, of those 4 minutes in the dark, of her gentle push toward a different kind of legacy. The elevator doors opened onto the street. Monica waited with the car, but Marcus paused, looking up at the tower his family had built. 52 floors of glass and steel, reaching for the sky. But real strength, he'd learned, wasn't about reaching higher. It was about reaching out. Ready? Monica asked. Marcus took one last look at the building, at the life he'd almost lost, trying to conquer it. Yeah, he said. I'm ready. The car pulled away from the curb, carrying him toward therapy, toward his new normal, toward a future his mother had seen before any of them. Behind him, the Rothschild Tower rose into the autumn sky, its shadow falling differently now, touching different lives, different dreams. Some people called it failure, walking away from an empire. Marcus called it living, and for the first time since those 4 minutes in the dark, he could breathe. Really breathe. If you enjoyed this story, we'd love for you to support us by leaving a like and subscribing to our Slices of Life channel. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Which city are you talking about? It's very rewarding for us to provide our followers with an enjoyable moment. We appreciate the unconditional support you show us in every story. Blessings!